Welcome to Awaken to Your Heart, a podcast to, help you awaken to your heart and live a life with meaning and purpose. I'm your host, Zia Eubanks. Hi, welcome to the podcast. Today's episode is about how to create an action plan that really works. I think a lot of us that are waking up and are having spiritual awakenings and recognizing that our thoughts create reality are paying attention to what we need to change. Like this idea of, I know that my thoughts are creating my reality, so I have to watch what I'm thinking. And if I really want to change my outside world, I have to change my thinking. Well, sometimes change is hard. When we think about an action plan or setting goals, it's usually about, some kind of financial goal or weight loss goal or exercise goal or a goal about getting a new job. But the action plan I'm talking about and the goals I'm talking about is being able to change your consciousness in order to match what you want to manifest in your life. I watched a movie by Kyle Cease called The Illusion of Money. And in that movie, he talked about you have to change your consciousness about money before your relationship with money changes. Consciousness comes first and the money comes second. And that was the most powerful thing I got from that movie, this understanding of if you want to be a vibrational match for what you desire, then you need to elevate your consciousness. So that made me start thinking about this action plan idea, or this how to create what it is that we want to manifest with action. You can't just talk about it. You just can't think about, I'm thinking these old thoughts. I need to change my thoughts. Well, how do we do that? So that's what this is about. How do we go about aligning ourselves with our desire? So most of all, let me talk about the way we normally do things in our world. So we're a couch potato and we're like, we want to exercise more. So we're like, okay, we're going to exercise 3 days a week, or I'm going to walk 10,000 steps a day. So you start doing that. But when reality is your lifestyle is a couch potato, you're not an exercise person. So your mindset is already off because you're forcing yourself to become something that you haven't been. So it's like you're not matching, the consciousness doesn't match the activity. So in order to start with this, you have to ask yourself, am I aligning with my desire? How do I align my thinking, my behavior, my activities with my desire? So you have to, before you get out of bed and go, okay, I'm going to go walk 10,000 steps, you've got to ask yourself some questions. And the first one is, do I have conflicting desires? Like, I can always equate this to dieting because I did that a lot in my life. And so I decided I want to lose weight. So then I'm going to go on this food plan. I'm going to restrict my food and I'm going to exercise like a maniac and, do that offset of calories, expend more calories than I take in. And obviously the weight will come off. But when that happens, my body and my survival brain, we all have that reptile brain that wants to keep us safe and keep us alive and keep us from being in pain. So my survival brain goes, oh my God, here she goes again. She's going to try to kill us. So the first thing my survival brain does is starts the cravings like, oh man, I really want some ice cream. Or you don't really want to exercise today. You can do it tomorrow. Or do it later today. And then later today turns into nothing. But then I have to use my willpower. It's like, nope, I'm going to do this. So then I willpower my way through it. Well, then eventually the willpower ends and I go back to my old behaviors because what hasn't changed is my consciousness. So I have a reptile brain that thinks the word diet means die. I have a reptile brain that believes the exercise is going to be painful and kill me. And then I have a desire to be healthy and fit. So how do those two things happen? Well, the bottom line is the reptile brain, the survival brain, sees that desire as vanity, and vanity always loses to survival. So I have to look at that survival brain and go, why do I believe diets are about death? Why do I believe exercise is about pain? Because that's the consciousness I've created. My lifetime has been about me forcing myself from the outside in instead of aligning with a belief or an idea and then living that. So that's like aligning with the desire and understanding that I created this survival brain. That survival brain, that reptile brain, was created through my life experience. So I have to be able to look at that and say, okay, survival brain, we're not going to die. Everything's going to be okay. And understand that before I begin. That is a huge shift. Now, the other thing is having conflicting desires. So again, it goes back to the survival brain. So let's say an example of you want to quit your job and start a business. You have this entrepreneurial drive and you want to open a food truck, and you're going to quit your job that has good insurance and retirement and a steady paycheck, and you're going to go open a food truck and make tacos. Well, your survival brain is like, no, we're not doing that because, that's a threat to our security. And then the people in your life are also saying, are you really going to risk everything on a taco truck? And the whole structure of your life is questioning you with this desire. So you have conflicting desires. In your heart, you're like, yeah, I want to start a food truck. I know that I make the best tacos in town. I could go hit all these spots, a different workplace every day or a different spot. I can make tons of money selling tacos and I'll be doing something I love. But then all of a sudden, there's all this self-sabotage and people questioning you, and you start questioning yourself. So that is about the same issue that I was just talking about, is aligning with your desire. But the security aspect is what's keeping you stuck, because you don't want to risk losing security. But those identifications and those belief systems about what security looks like is this conditioned belief system or consciousness that's created by basically our tribe, the people who we associate with, our life, our culture, and going outside that feels threatening. So then we have to look at that. So these are the things, this stuff has to be looked at before you make the leap. I think a lot of people, and I know I've done this my whole life, it's like I get excited, I'm going to go do the thing, and then I jump into it, and then it peters out. And I'm like, okay, what's wrong with me? Why can't I make this work? Well, the reason I can't make it work is because I haven't started with the end in mind. Like, what does that really look like? What does my survival brain, my reptile brain, believe about this situation? And what do I believe about this situation? And what does my life look like? And how do I change my consciousness to match my desire? Just like that movie in The Illusion of Money, he used the example of lottery winners. We've all heard these stories. Somebody, wins 5 million or 10 million or 50 million in the lottery. They go off, they buy Corvettes and condos and diamond rings and Coach purses, and they just blow through the money. And 5 years later, they don't have anything. Well, the reason that happens is that they have the consciousness of lack. They have the consciousness of not having enough. You continue to repeat the behaviors of your consciousness. It's like if you don't believe that you're a healthy, fit person, and you think of yourself as a couch potato, you live as a couch potato, everything you do says couch potato. When you try to change that, it's never going to work. So you have to start with, what does that look like to be aligned with my ultimate desire? That is how you start an action plan. And that is the hardest way to start, because it takes all this self-reflection. But I want to say, I'm going to correct myself again. Sometimes I say things and then I realize, oh my gosh, there's another belief. I just said that that's the hard way. And I believe, that's a thought that I hold. Oh, it's hard to look at your thoughts and change your thoughts. You know what? That's just a belief as well. It's not hard. What it requires is to become the observer, to witness yourself and really pay attention to yourself. And that isn't hard. That's just awkward and different. We're not used to doing that. We're used to looking, let me see what I can change in my outside world to get what I want. We don't say, let me look inside myself and change me to be a match for what I want. And that's what's required. And that's not hard. That's just different. And I think my mindset needs to change. And I think all of our mindsets needs to change. If you did this one time, then you get the results you want. How many times have you set goals and failed and set goals and failed and set goals and failed, or made it halfway to your goal, or, 3/4 to your goal? How many times have you done that? Whereas in what I'm talking about is you start with changing your consciousness to be more aligned with what it is you want. And then you do that one time, and then it's over. And then once you're aware of that, that belief system or that reptile brain that's going into survival mode, you see it. You see it, and then you go, oh, here it is again. All right, I'm going to take some deep breaths. Because when you take a deep breath, it tells your body and your reptile brain that you're safe and that everything's okay. Your sympathetic nervous system relaxes, and you're like, okay, fight or flight is off. We're okay. And so it takes awareness to continue to do that. And when that pops up, you go, it's okay. We're fine. Take a deep breath. Peace and calm. We're changing, and it's okay. And then you start to look at what does it look like for me to be aligned with this end result that I want. If I want to get up off the couch and not be a couch potato anymore, and I want to start exercising, what does that look like? Who do I have to become to be that person? What does my life look like? All right, well, you have to first of all start looking at what beliefs you hold. What is the belief I have about what it means to exercise? And it's like, okay, I'm going to do it for 2 weeks and that should be enough. Or you say to yourself, you know what? I'm a person who loves fresh air. I'm a person who loves to be outside. I'm a person who loves to move my body. I'm going to use my 10,000 steps a day as meditation time, where I'm going to meditate and connect with this physical being that I am. And all of a sudden you start breathing and you walk and you feel your body and you feel nature and you see the flowers and the trees and the blue sky, and you're like, this feels so great. And you have this reward that you get instead of this punishment feeling like, oh man, I've got 6,000 steps. I got to get 4,000 more. I can do it. Instead, you're like breathing and walking and connecting and seeing birds, and a bunny hops by. It's like there's this whole different experience. And then you reward yourself in your consciousness or your thinking about, this feels great. This really feels great. I really enjoy doing this. There's nothing harmful about this. And when that little survival brain pops up, you do the breathing again. You do the deep breathing. You say peace and calm. We're fine. We're alive. We're healthy. This is making our life better. And you have to mindfully participate in that change. It can't just happen by forcing it or cajoling yourself or creating charts that you're going to chart everything on, or having an app that, reminds you every minute, okay, you got to do your 10,000 steps. There's so many ways that we're externally trying to get ourselves to change, when what really has to happen is the internal change needs to come first. And that's the whole point. It's like recognizing these primitive brain behaviors that we created. I can give you the example. Like when I was a kid, my mom was like a crazy dieter. She was like an insane dieter. It was controlled her life, and it controlled our family. And she dieted up until like 2 weeks before she died. And she died when she was 96. She was on the paleo diet 2 weeks before she died. Anyway, and we had to help her stand up on the scale so she could weigh herself. It was like she was just completely obsessed. So I grew up with that. But what happened to me is like there's this rebel inside of me, and I resisted that. I got angry at cottage cheese and grapefruit and boiled eggs. It was like, I don't want to eat grapefruit and boiled eggs. I don't want to eat, salad with no dressing on it. And I don't, all these things that became like the norm in our life. And then I would do these extreme diets like she would do, and my body would basically go into starvation mode because you can't survive on 400 calories a day. So I just did all this completely mental craziness to myself, thinking that the only way that I was going to be whole and lovable and worthy is if I wore a certain dress size or weighed a certain number on the scale. And that insanity just turned me, between the rebel in me and my insanity of trying to match and connect with those things, it created my survival brain, which is, here she goes again. She's going to go on a diet and she's going to try to kill us. So anything she eats, we're going to store as fat. We're going to send her cravings for chocolate and ice cream and whatever. And that's exactly what I set up. I set up this crazy system, and because I was not paying any attention to what was going on inside me, I was completely focused on the outside. And it's taken me a long time to figure that out. It's like, what would it be for me to release this diet mentality consciousness and connect with the truth of myself, the internal truth of this magnificent being in my body temple that knows exactly how to heal itself. Like when we cut ourselves, it automatically, you get the collagen that goes over and creates a scab, and the scab starts to, heal, and pretty soon your cut is gone, and you don't even know that it was there. Most times you don't even have a scar. It's like you don't have to go, okay, body, I have a cut, so I am going to do, I'm going to create more collagen. Okay, I got to focus on creating more collagen to cover this wound. Well, it's an automatic thing. We have automatic healing. It happens. It's like if we need to reconnect with this magnificence of our human experience that we completely override with our survival brain and our looking outside first. It's like, what can I change in my outside world to fix my inside world? So that's the idea of how to create an action plan that really works. Quit looking outside. Quit trying to enforce or force behaviors on yourself in order to believe that if I do this, if I force myself long enough, then I'll turn into something I want to be. What you have to start with is looking at how can I align with what I want to be before I even start. Like, what does that look like? Who is that person? What behaviors do they practice? I know that Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about he has several books that he's written and he does workshops, but this idea of don't get up in the morning until you can fully connect your heart and your mind with this vision of this person that you want to be. If you want to be an entrepreneur who owns a food truck, when you get up in the morning, you don't want to start your day with, oh man, I got to get up and get a shower and go to work and go to this job I hate, and one of these days I'm going to quit that job. You're going to get up and you're going to start thinking about, wow, okay, I've got to go to the grocery store. I got to get all the stuff to make my amazing tacos. I have this I have this place to be today. What would it feel like to get up and just be doing what you loved, to be the person that you loved, have the life that you love? That's the thing with the brain. What the brain does is like, it doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. So if you lay there in bed and you imagine what it is that you want to align with, you feel it in your heart, you envision it in your head. And like what Dr. Joe Dispenza says is your brain sends the information out into the quantum field, into the field of unlimited possibilities, and your heart, that feeling of it, attracts it back like a magnet. So the emotion and the vision are the two required components. So to start with an action plan that really works, how can you align with your desire? What does that look like for you? Can you lay in bed in the morning before you get up and visualize what it is you want and how it will feel? How would it feel to own that food truck? How would it feel to be this athletic person that's not a couch potato? How would it feel to have the nice, comfortable body that you desire? It's like you have to be able to align yourself with the desire before you begin. And once you start aligning yourself with the desire, then these hidden beliefs, like with the reptile brain, pops up and you see it because you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't align with my desire. What's that about? And then you can say, wow, I have this belief that if I go walk 10,000 steps, I'm going to be, my knees are going to be aching so bad I'll be, laid up for 2 days. Well, that is a belief, and your reptile brain is trying to get you trying to help you survive. And in its mind, that, that's going to equal pain. We don't want you to be in pain, so we're going to do what we can do to make you stop. Not to say that there are people that could have hurt knees if they walk that far, but you know what I'm saying. It's like we get these roadblocks thrown up by our survival brain that we have to look at and say, is this real for me? Or is this something that I made up when I was a kid or during some circumstance that was threatening to me, and now it's no longer true? I think that's the biggest thing. We have to stop and look at that. So anyway, that's my idea for today, is like learning to align with your desire and then see what your conflicting desires are. And also, how does this new desire align with my life and the current personal reality that I've created? Because that's what we're constantly doing. Our thoughts, our behaviors, our actions are creating our personal reality. So if we want a new personal reality, then we have to change those behaviors, those thoughts, those actions. And in order to do that, we need to understand that our reptile brain is going to pop up and try to protect us. It's doing it for our own good, but sometimes it's just outdated. It's so outdated, and we just never have looked at it. So it's time to do that. All right, well, that's it for today. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode. If you haven't taken it, the Heart Archetype quiz is tagged below in the show notes, and it answers the question, are you listening to the call of your heart? It's quick. It's about 7 questions. It takes 10 minutes or less, and it's free.